Welcome back to Embrace Education, the podcast where we explore what it means to lead with care, inspiration, and curiosity in today's schools. In this episode, we're turning our focus inward again to the people at the heart of every school, which is teachers. We know that when teachers thrive, students do too. But how do school leaders create the conditions for teacher well-being to flourish? We're honored and I am so happy to have again with us today Dimitris Primalis, who is the head of foreign languages at
Ευρωπαϊκό Πρότυπο.
Ευρωπαϊκό Πρότυπο School. And we're going to talk about what it really means to lead with care. The previous time we talked about Dimitri's personal outlook on well-being and teacher well-being. Today we're going to talk about the systemic aspect of how a school can support teacher well-being. So let's dive in. Welcome, Dimitris. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Nice to see you again.
So a few things about Dimitris very quickly. He has been teaching English for over 30 years, unbelievable. His experience covers a wide range of group of interests, including young learners, teenagers, adults, exam prep classes. He also designs materials, and I doubt there is any Greek or in Europe, teacher who has not been in one of his very educational, very intriguing workshops on things near his heart, like technology, for example, 21st century skills, innovation, integrating innovation into the syllabus, and now AI. So, Dimitris, without further ado, welcome to the discussion. A lot more things about Dimitris are in the previous podcast that you can listen to when you have time, as well as the many discussions we've had about school, all things education. So the previous time we talked about the personal aspect of teacher well-being and aggravating factors that might lead to burnout. Today, I'd like us, Dimitri, to discuss the systemic aspect of teacher well-being. And we know that well-being is a multimodal. It includes personal, societal, and systemic factors. Regarding the systemic aspect, I remember in one of your LinkedIn lives some time ago, you discussed with
Michael Robs, that's right.
Michael Robs, and you were talking about teacher burnout, and you mentioned well-being washing, I think. Could you tell us a few things about what it is?
Yes, in fact, there are lots of schools that either would like to do something about their teachers' well-being, or obviously because they're under pressure, they want to show that they're doing something about it. And they might just invite some speakers, talk about well-being, and then that's it. Whereas the well-being of your teachers should be one of your main concerns. Not in the sense that you want to spoil them, but in the sense that you need to have educators who are strong, creative, resourceful, full of energy. They want to, they're out there to, in the class, to implement your syllabus, to make sure that they go the extra mile. And yes, I agree that doing some workshops or inviting speakers to talk about well-being is a very important part, but it's not the only one. It should be an indispensable part of a school's culture.
Right.
And there are many ways a school can support the educator's well-being.
And we're going to get into that. Okay, and we're going to get into that. Okay, and I know that your role as in the school is a delicate one because you have to balance administration demands and quality standards, and on the other hand, the teachers care to really care. And I can see from the way you talk, and I know you, of course, that you really care about your teachers. So, what are some strategies that you implement for addressing teacher burnout and managing workload?
Mhm. Well, of course, well, I'd say that the very first tool that I found most interesting is
Mhm.
peer support and peer learning. Uh, Teachers, educators usually are involved in many types of knowledge. We all have our favorite areas. So you might have someone who's an expert or a tech savvy, say in technology, and you've got the rest of the group who struggle.
Mhm.
They might spend sleepless nights worrying about what they might do if my students might ask them to use technology.
Mm.
And there, in educational leadership, this is called joint leadership. You form a group, and in this particular group, you let the person who has expertise in that particular field take the lead, support other teachers, make sure that you provide a safe environment in the sense that whenever you have a meeting and the educators feel that it's safe to exchange ideas, experience, what went well and what didn't. Make sure
Mm.
that they pilot new approaches because let's face it, I remember when I was a young teacher, it was a communicative approach.
Mm.
And then it was project-based learning. And then it was clearly. And then now it's inquiry-based learning. The well, I'd say technology as well. So there are always changes. People feel vulnerable when they have to put aside what has been working well so far for them, and they need to try a new thing. And who can absorb all the stress? Partly it's the leadership, but who understands them best? It's their peers. So if you create an environment where peers feel they can be open about their successes and their failures, and if you allow space for minor changes to be implemented following a strategic plan, then obviously you take away most of the pressure.
Mm.
And as a school leader, you need to prepare students, tell them that, this year we will be applying selectively this.
Mhm.
Could be clear, it could be AI, it could be, and make sure that your teachers have the necessary support. Even if things go wrong, you have a plan B. You're there supporting them. And then you gather as a group, you talk about it, and everybody actually builds on that experience. So in this way, you what you manage to do is take away all the pressure, all the stress, the fear of the unknown. What if I fail? What if I do something wrong?
Mm.
And you do help peers feel that they are appreciated not only by their students but also by their peers, which is very important. So
Say,
basically, you build an atmosphere of mutual support. And once you feel that your colleagues are there to support you if need be, of course, you're going to give a lending hand if things go wrong. This this culture actually can actually give you more advantages. For instance, if anything goes wrong and you need a helping hand, I've
mm.
realized that over time, teachers are more willing to help peers if they're late, if they don't feel well, if they've got problems with a class which needs class management and it's quite tough.
Mm.
And they're there and they're very supportive. They share good ideas. They share their experience, which sometimes is invaluable.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And sometimes they can even invite their peers to observe their lessons.
Peer observation. Mhm.
And it comes naturally. But because you've obviously built an atmosphere of mutual respect, you don't feel that the other person comes there to observe and judge you.
Mhm.
But it's something you can talk about.
Right.
You feel that your peer is your ally. And it does help. And I've seen that happening many, many times.
Amazing.
And that definitely contributes to the well-being of teachers because they feel that they're not alone. They're not alone fighting there.
Mhm.
Um, they've got allies. There is a
Mhm.
support group. They're willing to help them.
Right. It sounds as if there are systems that you're using in your school, right? Is there actually something you would suggest to school leaders who are listening to us? For example, is peer support systematized in some way or any other systems that you're using?
I'd say we have weekly meetings.
Okay.
Um, this is not always feasible, but most of the times, what we're trying to do is make sure that there is something useful out there.
Mhm.
It's not just what you've covered. Try to encourage them to be more open about the problems they encounter. Do some brainstorming, see how the whole group can come up with ideas, what we can do. Can we, for instance, do we need to modify the syllabus?
Mhm.
Is there something else that we can do?
Right.
And usually it works because you've got so many people working on the problem, and they usually come up with great ideas.
Right. So,
So that's one thing. Another thing is in-house training.
mm,
Invite people who know a lot of things about a specific field or an area, and
mhm.
invite them to share what they know, what they've done, invite them to share personal stories. All right, you do that. I know time, there are time limits, but because this is authentic, people appreciate that. And usually it's because this happens in a particular context, in the context of the school. Usually it's relevant. Whereas the problem with trainers is that they might come and they have something generic in mind, but they can't. There's no way they can know exactly what's happening in your school. So
Yeah.
yes, these are necessary too, but
Mhm.
in-house training, usually conducted by peers, is another very useful experience. And people
Mm.
are much more open about it. They know that their colleague is trying to share, and they appreciate that.
Right. Right. So what you're saying is, if I understand you well, is right. It's not something too difficult to do. It's you hold your weekly meetings as usual, but you are flexible around it, and you're flexible around everything that's going on in the school, so that you're ready to implement any suggestions or solutions.
That's
And
right.
also,
It's not always feasible. I mean,
hmm,
sometimes it can't happen, but some
yeah,
other times it works.
all right.
And whenever
Well,
it works, obviously it helps people, it encourages them, it gives them
mhm,
strength to carry on.
mhm, mhm.
And another thing is you need to be a very good listener. This is something we tend to forget. You do need to be a good listener. Very often, teachers might express their concern or they complain about something. Um, it might not be what it seems to be at the very beginning, and you sometimes you need to read between the lines. But obviously, if there's a complaint or if there is any kind of concern expressed, you do need to look into it, to examine it carefully. Obviously, most of the times there's a very good reason why
Mhm.
the educator has expressed this concern.
Right. What I often say is good questions produce great answers. So, as you said, we need to be willing to listen and also to be able to ask the right questions. Read between the lines and ask to learn what's going on. Very often, I've noticed that what people are looking for when they express a complaint is personal care. They feel they're not being cared for. So, and this expression of personal concern can go a long way into solving issues in general.
If I may, building on that, you may encourage people who have a lot to share. You might encourage them to share with the rest of the educational community.
Mhm.
For instance, you could encourage them to participate in a convention or an event. For instance, it could be TESOL Greece or it could be ITEFL, depending on the school's finances and whether you can afford them or not. But always, I mean, if it's a convention like TESOL Greece, the fee
Mhm.
is 50 euros. It's affordable for any school, and people truly appreciate that. And then there's another factor. You need to have a steady frame. You need to have a code of conduct for students and parents and have
Mm.
very clear limits on what
Mm.
they can ask for. Always, you have to be fair, but obviously, there should be some limits. I'm not saying that all parents overreact, but I've witnessed cases where people overreact. They don't really know what they're looking for, and in that case, it's the leadership that needs to make sure that after a certain point, very often it turns to be harassment,
Yeah.
and they need to make sure that teachers can continue teaching without feeling threatened, without being bullied, without constantly feeling that whatever they do, there's nobody out there to
Mhm.
protect them.
Support them. Yes, leadership, as you see it, is a sort of a buffer between irrational concerns or irrational demands. And talking about this, again, knowing your delicate role, I'd like to ask you, how do you encourage as a leader healthy boundaries between work and personal life for your staff? Yeah.
I try to reduce the unnecessary tasks.
Mm.
Because very often when you conceive something, it could be, for instance, a very elaborate report card, which has got 100 descriptors on it. In reality, well, right, 100 is just a
Yeah, but I
figure,
see what you mean.
but
Yes.
once you realize that, yes, I mean, it's a nice idea, but in reality, uh, parents want actually more than 5 or 10, then you should be flexible. Try to adapt and make sure that it does not distract teachers from their teaching duties, namely getting the classroom and doing their job there. They don't mind doing that. I know committed teachers who love going to the classroom. Sometimes, a classroom can feel like entering a tempest, but they manage. They're fantastic when they do that. But when it comes to doing all the extra tasks, at some point they feel they don't have any free time. They feel that they
Mhm.
spend most of their time doing bureaucracy, and
Yeah.
that's something we need to avoid. I'm not saying that they should be doing any of these tasks. It's part of their duty, but you need to make sure that it doesn't take so much time which is at the expense of their teaching duties.
I'll take you on that. It's true, and it comes out in every research, Dimitri. This need to do bureaucracies, tasks, which teachers, they're not unrealistic. They do realize that there are things to be done, but this exceeding work. And to be honest, I wanted to share very, very quickly a story from our own school. At some point, we thought that it would be nice to have to give parents a monthly report, uh, not monthly, but bi-monthly. Now that's a lot of work. A lot of work. And we all thought that, all meaning the staff as well, thought it was a good idea. But when we started, implementing it, it wasn't that good. There was a lot of work involved, and we had to be, as you said before, flexible to realize that no, enough is enough. This is not going to help anyone, and we changed it. But it's important to be there, to be involved in the teaching work, like you are.
Exactly. And assess what you've been doing so far.
Yes. Right.
It's
Talking
true.
about this.
But there are other things as well. For instance, events organized by schools, which are usually very demanding. We're talking about performances,
Creative
school
performance.
performances, attending other events. The best thing is usually a rotation. You can't be asking all the teachers to do everything. Usually you assign certain duties. And most of the times I know that the teachers will do more than they're asked to do, because they love what they're doing. They want to promote the students' work. They're so proud of them. They want to show parents. But everything should be done in moderation. So
And
rotation is
it's
very
important.
important. Delegating duties, usually pairing experienced educators with young, inexperienced educators. Experienced educators have the knowledge. Young people are fresh and full of energy, and they want to learn things. They want to do things, and it usually works well.
Talking about you somehow get me to ask the next question. You talk about young educators, and as you know, I am a great advocate of women educator well-being. So have you noticed any patterns in who tends to struggle most with burnout? Is it years of experience? Is it subject area, identity, other factors?
It could be very young, who find the whole experience overwhelming. And usually there needs to be a mentor, somebody who's more experienced, and basically they introduce them gradually into into teaching, the school's routines, the school's culture. And mind you, every school has its own cultures. I recently changed school, and even though we used exactly the same name for certain duties, for certain routines, it wasn't the same thing, which can be confusing. Plus, educators, a newcomer need not necessarily be inexperienced. It might be somebody who's experienced, but when they come to a new environment, obviously, it's cool according to its logistics, and there are so many factors that define the daily routines, the rules, regulations, and everything. They need time. So you need to be patient. If you're not patient with them, in no likelihood they will give up. They will resign. And I know that it's the resignations are sweeping now education. Another factor might be people who have been very successful in teaching in a specific way. They might burn out if a change is introduced without all the necessary support. If I ask you, I call you, I ask you to meet me at my office today, and I say, right, tomorrow you're doing an inquiry-based learning. You go, what? I expect you to, create 5 lesson plans on that. obviously it won't work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter whether you're young, old, experienced, or inexperienced.
Right.
It doesn't really make any difference. What you need to do as a leader, you definitely need to plan well ahead. Make sure that there is smooth transition. You allow time. You allow
Yeah.
people to find the time to acquaint themselves with change.
Mhm.
Introduce changes step by step, and above all, support them with
Mhm.
workshops, hands-on material, so that they can gradually become acquainted with the changes.
Right.
I've seen in my career very successful changes, which had been carefully planned. Uh, we were guided, and every time we set small achievable goals,
Mhm.
everybody had this wonderful feeling of achievement. We were very proud of what we'd done, and then we moved on to the next one. But there
Mhm.
were times when things were rushed. They had to be done practically overnight, without the necessary guidance, without making it clear to educators why they should be done, what the outcome, the desired outcome should be.
Mm. Mm. Right.
And then it just becomes a chore.
Mhm. It's what you're saying. Agency is so important. I mean, we moved uh, practically overnight to online teaching during the pandemic, but we all knew why, and it was not only clear why, but teachers also had agency over this. They had their word on how to do this and how to move along. Of course, support was very important, and it wasn't always there, and that's one of the reasons why there was so much burnout during the pandemic and after. That's also interesting. After
But
the
it was a golden opportunity for us to show
yes.
parents, the whole family, how hard educators work. I
Mm-hmm.
remember that by even in 2 or 3 years after the lockdown, I could feel that people treated us with more respect.
Appreciated the work more. Yeah, that's
Exactly. They appreciated all the effort we put in, and I could see it in the eyes of my students and
mm.
the parents. Actually, it was the whole family. So somebody came and said, my a parent came and said, my father, I mean the child's grandfather,
Mhm.
loves your lessons. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Wow.
And then you
That's
realize what kind of
right.
impact you have.
Right. Okay, it's almost time to go. I'd like to ask you one thing that's personal, and you can answer if you want. We are the models, right? And you said so yourself before. So how do you model well-being and balance in your own role? I don't believe in balance, I believe in harmony, which is a whole different thing. So as a leader, what's a recent example you can share?
Well, I'm not quite sure I'm the ideal model for that. But what I'm trying to do is make sure that I set clear goals,
Mm.
uh, and
For whom?
for myself,
Ah,
my group, and the school,
okay.
and um, and then define which ones are the top priority,
Mm.
which ones could wait a bit, and which
Mhm.
ones would be nice to achieve, but that's all right if we don't achieve them this year.
Mm.
We can just start working on them. And I'll just give an example. Yesterday, there was a deadline for people who wanted to apply for becoming Microsoft Innovative Educator
Mm.
Experts, which is an honorary title. It's very interesting. There is a process. There were people, and we had a discussion with my group nearly at the beginning of the year. Um, Towards the end of the year, we did some training on that. There were people who, because obviously they've got families, they've got a life to lead, right? They just couldn't do that. And yesterday I received a couple of phone calls saying, well, we don't think we can make it. No worries
Mm.
about it. It's not that your life depends on that.
Yeah.
I know that there are people who would like to do it and they had the opportunity to do it. If you don't have the time to do it now, don't worry, you're going to do it next year.
Realistic expectations.
Exactly. Not everything is top priority.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, which actually allows me to be a bit more, I'd say, much more demanding with the top priority,
Mm.
and with the other stuff, that's all right. Doesn't really matter. If I may, probably as a closing phrase, I recently watched a video about burnout, because it is a burning issue. You don't
Yes.
want to see your teachers burning out. And this can happen very easily. Um, and I would feel myself responsible for that as well,
Mm.
because I need to prevent that. And the takeaway from this video was that um, it's not the workload, but it's the impact that you have. In other words, if you feel that you work nonstop for something that has a positive impact on your learners, then obviously you feel that you're rewarded and you do it. And I've seen so many educators in my life. I feel blessed because I've seen them working so much more than I do, to the point that I feel guilty about not working as much as they do. Um, and they felt happy. So
Right.
I'm not saying that they should be working long hours. I would go for quality, not quantity. And I
Mhm.
would say prioritizing our goals. Uh,
Right.
and for those of us who would like to work a bit more on their continuous professional development,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a very important um, part of a teacher's life. Education keeps changing, and it's changing rapidly. A recent example in Greece is the IB diploma has been introduced in so many schools, even in state-owned schools. So obviously, if you want to respond and if you want to live up to the expectations of others and yourself, yes, you do need to do that, but set carefully your goals,
Mm-hmm.
and be patient with yourself.
Smart goals, or even
Exactly.
smarter goals, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Beautiful, Dimitri, beautiful. So before we wrap, we end every episode, or nearly every episode, with Embrace 3. It's a quick round based on growth, and I'll ask you to fill in 3 prompts. Okay, just answer with whatever comes to mind first. Don't overthink. A quick reflection rooted in growth. So think of it like this: the root. What is something grounding you? One thing.
Well, basically, it's I'd say finding enough time to spend with people I appreciate.
Okay. The branch. Something you're reaching for.
Um, well, I've always been interested in um, integrating innovation in my
Mm.
teaching and keeping up to date with what's happening in society. And I'm trying to do that, even though I've been working for more than 3 decades in education. And I think
Work in
I find that
progress.
invigorating.
Yeah, right. Okay, and the bloom. Something you're celebrating or something you're grateful for?
Um, all the things that I've learned from mingling with peers.
Mm.
There are so many amazing educators out there. And yet usually they're so generous that they share their wisdom, their experience, their bright ideas. Sometimes even having a chat with them after a presentation at a conference or a convention or at an event, or even just sipping coffee and talking about education can actually be truly inspiring.
Dimitris, with one word. Should leaders be in class?
Yes, it's a huge yes. It helps you keep your feet on the ground, and it helps you have a very clear picture of what you should be planning for.
True. I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Dimitris,
Thank you very much.
for your personal uptake on things, that last one as well. So that was Dimitris Primalis offering such a grounded and inspiring look into the ways leadership can uplift, sustain, and protect teacher well-being. As we keep reimagining education for well-being and joy, it's clear that supporting teachers systematically and not just once in a while is key to having schools that flourish, students that thrive. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with a colleague, and leave us a review. You can also follow us on YouTube and other social media, and check out our resources at www.metamothesis.com. Until next time, stay well, stay curious, and keep embracing well-being in education.
Thank you very